Hey, Drew. Malting's Irish Ale.
Okay.
Sullivan's. You ever had it,
No.
Bert?
No, I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, me neither. It's it's hearty. Like it makes fucking Guinness look like Weight Watchers.
Yeah, I would I think there's an awful lot of beers that you guys don't get that you don't get.
Yeah.
Meaning me and Bert, because I bet Bert has pretty much the same flavor profile. Well, maybe not though. You probably get heavy Yingling area, Rolling Rock.
So
But then of
yeah,
course we all have 700 craft breweries in our town.
that's
So
what I was just gonna
Uh-huh.
say. Is there's so many of these independent breweries now. I mean, I still will drink a Yingling now and again, but Juniata Brewing Company is the guy's a Juniata College grad. He's started his own business here in town, and so like I go down there and I have their, whatever they've got on tap this week or whatever.
mhm.
So yeah, I don't do much of the big stuff anymore. The name brand.
Actually, speaking of that, I'm gonna grab a beer too before we get started because one of our locals, they've just gone off the rails with their flavors for, I think, shock value to keep relevant,
Yeah, yeah.
rather than rather than sticking with these amazing beers they've always made. It really is upsetting to us locals. But their releases for the season this year is tiramisu stout.
Is it
Uh,
is it Southern tiramisu?
well,
Oh
they missed an
God.
opportunity with that.
They really did.
I'm surprised they did because they're usually, but they don't really punt around too much. But seriously, that's a missed opportunity.
It
It's
totally is.
yeah, it's not good though. It's a 10%. It's like drinking like syrup. Those heavy beers they make are just too much. It's like if you boil down a whole chocolate cake into liquid and put
Well,
it into a bottle and drink it.
Ryan
That's
looks like he just did a shot of Coke.
Well, we are going to talk about Johnny Cash.
yeah.
it's topical.
Let's cash in on today's subject. Are you guys ready? Ron,
Yes.
you
All
look
right,
way
let's
too
let's
sober for this.
let's
All right.
cash in.
All right. Well, if we are officially starting, then I need to prepare.
Oh no, he's gonna do the
Cheers,
whole thing.
everybody.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers. Shit. I'm gonna need more alcohol.
100.
I'm Bert,
I'm Drew.
I'm Ron.
I'm Ryan.
and this is the 100 Albums Podcast, where we discuss the ins, the outs, and the absurdities of a poster that depicts 100 seemingly random albums. And tonight, we're going to be talking about Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison.
Giving it away tonight. Now they
Tonight.
all know we stay up late.
We stay up late
Ooh,
and
good
drink
point.
alcohol. So we're getting in character because we're going to be talking about Johnny Cash as Ron takes a large swig of his beer. As a reminder, for those of you who aren't familiar with this thing we do, we're going through 100 albums that appear on a poster that Drew got from his wife a couple of years ago. We first went through the project by listening to and reviewing 2 albums a week for a year and sharing our thoughts and reactions with each other via video chat. Once we were all done, we thought that it might be fun to turn this project into a podcast. So let's talk about this week's album, At Folsom Prison by Johnny Cash. Vibe check, fellas. What are your first impressions?
Entertained.
Absolutely. It's a classic.
Yeah.
This is the start of punk.
Is that your
But
hot take?
That's like early hot take, Ron.
No, that was accidental. Any
That was
fucking
accidental.
thing.
Do you have an additional hot take then for later?
Oh hell no! I blew my wad
Well, then
early.
you should have saved it, man.
No,
Oh,
but
that was off the cuff magic, man. I wasn't planned.
that's the thing, though, that you're onto something. His anti-establishment. Well, we know what we're jumping ahead,
Yeah.
but Ron, this is what you do to us. You
I'm
tug at
such
our
a bastard.
heartstrings.
Drew, I completely stepped on you. What do you think about this, Haas?
Yeah, no, I agree. I wasn't totally agree. It's just so well executed. It's timeless. It's genreless, and yet the entertainment factor. Ryan, you put it the good word there is humongous. whether or not you are in prison or not. As at Folsom or San Quentin, because I went to get this record out and realized I only have Johnny Cash at San Quentin. I didn't have the Folsom Prison. So,
Bert, what's your impression?
Same. Entertaining. Yeah, you wouldn't think that hearing a concert performed in a prison would be like, yeah, hey, this is good vibes, guys.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird dichotomy, but yeah, I really enjoyed this listen. I enjoyed it the first time around on the poster, and I enjoyed it this time too.
I mean, I think like as far as live albums go, this really, if you just put it in your ears, you feel like you're at the concert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's almost like an element of the Johnny Cash's country music with like a comedy club atmosphere. And I mean, I can't help but be pulled into the experience.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, come on. Dark in the Dungeon. This is a serious song. And he's interacting with the audience to the point where he tells someone to stop laughing.
Yeah,
he
I know.
starts laughing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's audience interaction at its best. That's just great.
And when he asked for the cup of water, and the last time he had one, it felt like it came off a Luther's boot or something like that. Or, I mean, there's some classic stuff in here, but
yeah,
it's catering to the audience. It's a clinic in that. I mean, on every level, down to the shortness of the songs, like perfection in delivery of a concert. Anyway,
what I love about even the concept of this, I don't know if you guys found this in your research, but he had wanted to do something like this for a while, and he had to wait until a new producer came around, but he could kind of like talk into it. And it sounds kind of hokey, I guess, on the surface, like, oh, he's doing an album in a prison, but like it is like the most humanitarian thing. You think about it. I mean, these are still human beings, and we always treat convicts like they're not humans anymore. And he clearly understood the plot. Well, I have research about that later. I'm getting ahead. I'm sorry, Bert. I can see
that's okay.
You're giving me that look that normally you would say save it for the pod, and we're in the pod.
And we're in the pod. Imagine that. Imagine that. No, you're absolutely right, Ryan, and you're getting into some of the stuff that I found as well. But let's do a little bit of background. Johnny Cash was born John R. Cash in Kingsland, Arkansas on February 26, 1932. His mother wanted to name him John, and his father wanted to name him Ray. So they compromised on the initials J.R. When he signed his first record deal in 1955, he started using the name Johnny Cash. From the age of 5, he worked in the cotton fields with his family, singing with the family as they worked. His family farm suffered a flood during his childhood, which inspired his song 5 Feet High and Rising. The family's economic and personal struggles during the Great Depression gave him sympathy for the poor and working class. And I think, Ryan, to kind of what you were saying about, wanting to perform in a prison with prisoners, like I think that's where like that ethos kind of comes from for him.
Also, Bert, I hate to interrupt you, but
No, that's right.
You just illuminated something I never put together before. 5 Feet High and Rising.
3 feet high and rising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never put that together before.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. I
3/5.
think I'm gonna, that's it. This is my learning moment of the day.
Yeah, 3/5, right? Listeners, you can't see it now, but Ryan, his mind has been blown right now. He's sitting back in his chair, shaking his head. I didn't until I did the research. I hadn't made that connection either, Ryan. So there you go. Okay, so Johnny Cash's early musical influences were dominated by gospel music. He was taught guitar by his mother and a childhood friend. He began playing and writing songs at the young age of 12. He enlisted in the Air Force on July 7th, 1950, shortly after the start of the Korean War. After basic training at Lackland Air Force Base and technical training at Brooks Air Force Base, both in San Antonio, Texas. Johnny Cash was assigned the 12th Radio Squadron Mobile of the U.S. Air Force Security Service at Landsberg, West Germany. In 1954, after military service, he moved to Memphis, Tennessee. He sold appliances while studying to be a radio announcer. At night, he played with guitarist Luther Perkins and bassist Marshall Grant. Perkins and Grant were known as the Tennessee Two. Eventually, Cash worked up the courage to visit the Sun Records studio, hoping to get a recording contract. He auditioned for Sam Phillips by singing mostly gospel songs, only to learn from a producer that he no longer recorded gospel music. Eventually, Johnny Cash won over the production crew with new songs delivered in his early rockabilly style. In 1955, he made his first recordings at Sun, Hey Porter and Cry Cry Cry, which were both released in late June that year and met with success on the Country Hit Parade. In December 1956, Elvis Presley stopped by the studio while Carl Perkins was cutting new tracks with Jerry Lee Lewis backing him on piano. Cash was also in the studio, and the four started an impromptu jam session. Can you imagine that?
I would love to
Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny, like, come on. So
if I ever get a Wayback Machine, I'm going.
Yeah.
Well, so here it is.
Perkins brothers.
Yeah, the producer left the tapes running, and the recordings, almost half of which were gospel songs, all survived. They've since been released under the title $1 Million Quartet. So there you go. Go check that out.
Oh, isn't there a movie? Isn't that a movie?
Walk the Line?
No, $1 Million Quartet.
Oh, I don't know.
I'll look.
$1 Million Baby?
Is that one with John C. Reilly?
I don't know. Sorry if he makes me
Boogie
laugh.
Nights?
No, the one.
Step Brothers?
You've seen the one where he's the country guy.
Oh,
You don't want none of that, do we?
Yeah, that's my favorite part. You don't want none of that, dude. It's gonna make you feel good all over, and you're gonna like enjoy life more. I think I kind of want that.
Dewey Cox, the walk tall, the Dewey Cox story, or something like that.
Yeah, it's so good. Sorry, that's a tangent.
Anyway,
folks.
that's all right.
We'll cut that later.
Yeah.
It's a TV series, but this is weird. It's also a musical right now. I don't know how that.
It's going on right as we speak.
The $1 Million Quartet, and it's
Oh
about
no, sorry,
this.
not right. The musical, no, but yes, it's about this. It was in 2010.
There's a musical being performed right now while we're recording this podcast.
No, I took that back. I misspoke. It was the stickiness of my Tom and Jerry between my teeth that caused a misfire.
All right.
That didn't sound any better than what I was thinking.
So,
for the folks at home, Drew is enjoying a mug of Itchy and Scratchy.
Ooh, that would be a great counterpart to
They
the...
fight, and fight. Okay. Ring the bell. Get us back on track. So by the early 1970s, Johnny Cash had established his public image as the Man in Black. He regularly performed in entirely black suits with a long black knee-length coat. This outfit stood in contrast to a lot of the rhinestone and cowboy suits worn by many of the major country acts of that time. Johnny Cash said he wore all black on behalf of the poor and hungry, the, quote, prisoner who has long paid for his crime, and those who have been betrayed by age or drugs. He added, quote, with the Vietnam War as painful in my mind as it was in most other Americans, I wore it in mourning for the lives that could have been. Apart from the Vietnam War being over, I don't see much reason to change my position. The old are still neglected, the poor are still poor, the young are still dying before their time, and we're not making many moves to make things right. There's still plenty of darkness to carry off. He's a deep guy. Getting into this album area, Johnny Cash first became interested in Folsom State Prison while serving in the United States Air Force Security Service. In 1953, his unit watched Crane Wilbur's 1951 film Inside the Walls of Folsom Prison. The film inspired Cash to write a song that reflected his perception of prison life. The result was Folsom Prison Blues, Cash's second single on Sun Records. The song became popular among inmates who would write to Johnny Cash requesting him to perform at their prisons. His first prison performance was at Huntsville State Prison in 1957. Satisfied by the favorable reception, he performed at several other prisons in the years leading up to Folsom performance in 1968. So, this album was the first live album by American singer-songwriter Johnny Cash, released on Columbia Records May 6, 1968. After Folsom Prison Blues came out in 1955, he had been interested in recording an actual performance at a prison. His idea was put on hold until 1967, as Ryan alluded to earlier, when personnel changes at Columbia Records put Bob Johnston in charge of producing Cash's material. Backed by June Carter, Carl Perkins, and the Tennessee Three, Johnny Cash performed 2 shows at Folsom State Prison in California on January 13th, 1968. The first was at 9:40 in the morning, and the second was at 12:40 in the afternoon. He wanted to do 2 shows in case the first one sucked. Like that's literally, I mean, it's not literally what it said in the research, but that was the thing. You're like, hey, the first one could be terrible, so we'll do a second one just in case.
Well, at 9:30 in the morning.
I mean, the initial release of the album consisted of 15 songs from the first show and 2 from the second. So ironically, they took the bulk of the album from the 9:40 morning show. So Bob Johnston, just to kind of give you a little bit of background on him as the producer, he also worked with Patti Page, Bob Dylan, Simon and Garfunkel, Flatt and Scruggs, Leonard Cohen, Willie Nelson, Jimmy Cliff, and a bunch of other people. But normally when I talk about or when I research producers, I feel like it's like, when we did the Tim McGraw record, it was like, hey, this producer did a bunch of other country artists, right? But I mean, you've got Jimmy Cliff in here. You've got, Willie Nelson, Simon and Garfunkel. I think that's a pretty diverse offering of artists that Bob Johnston worked with. Eventually, he became the head of Columbia Records in Nashville. Even though Johnny Cash had a recent success of a single that was released before the Folsom concert, Columbia Records didn't invest in any support for the release of this album, as they were focusing more on pop music at that time. Despite that lack of support, the single Folsom Prison Blues charted on the Billboard Hot 100 in the week of May 25th, 1968. It hit the Billboard Country chart a week later. This I found really interesting. They hit a setback when on June 5th that year, John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Radio stations stopped playing the song because of the "shot a man in Reno" line in the music, right, in the lyrics. Against Johnny Cash's desire, Columbia re-released the single without that line in it, so that they could continue to capitalize on the success that they had been building with that song. So eventually the single peaked at #1 on both the country and top 40 charts. The album peaked at #1 on the country albums chart and number 13 on the pop albums chart, and to date has sold more than 3 million albums worldwide. So that's what I've got. And Drew stayed the whole time, so it must not have been too bad.
I will tell you, we have a little bit of overlap here. I think so. I actually found a scholarly article. I think it was a German academic, Elias von Menaar. The academic article is called "This Country Ain't Low, the Country Music of Dolly Parton and Johnny Cash as a Form of Redistributive Politics." And I will tell you, if you look it up online, everyone should, it's a great read, and I really wish I would have read it before we did Dolly Parton. Because there's some really interesting stuff there.
Well, send me that. Make sure you send me the link, Ryan, and I'll put that in the show
I will.
notes too.
Yeah, sure. So I'm just going to read a little bit that's pertaining to exactly what Bert was just talking about. This is directly from the article, folks. Johnny Cash expresses a different type of country progressivism. His performance as a hardened and traditionally masculine outlaw connected with his public image with mythology of frontier individualism, which Cash directed towards social issues surrounding inequality, minority rights, and mass incarceration. His deliberately crafted image as the Man in Black showcases his concern for the marginalized, both lamenting and lambasting racial discrimination as well as society's treatment of the poor. In the 1971 protest song Man in Black, Cash stated his reasons for donning the type of dark outfit that he wears, which I'm sure you guys know the lyrics. He kind of walks through exactly what you're saying, Bert, with that sort of anti-rhinestone thing and connecting with, more people that are that need to hear these things. So these straightforward lyrics reflect a form of political consciousness that is tied in with a visible activism on behalf of marginalized groups. In the song, Cash not only calls out society's disregard for the downtrodden, he also voices a larger diagnostic critique in which he disentangles the fate of the poor from capitalist conservative mythologies of personal responsibility, That's a whole topic I could get into. The repeated use of the lyrical I underscores that this is a message personal, yet each line in the first few stanzas effectively centers the experience of people who do not share the same fate as Cash. The singer oscillates between societal observations and a personal response, evoking a sense of solidarity and self-reflection. By referring to the structural causes for incarceration, the singer opens the door for a class-conscious reading of the song in which the coercive mechanisms of the prison industrial complex illustrate an exploitation of the working poor, most notably African Americans.
Damn.
And to summarize, as Bert put it, our boy's deep. I also, in doing, Ron, to your point about him being punk, which is kind of interesting, I did a lot of look into him as kind of the birth of outlaw country, which was actually a genre that he didn't necessarily want to be ascribed to him. Did anyone else find this?
I didn't, but my knowledge of outlaw country is that was Willie and Waylon telling "fuck you" to Nashville and going to Austin. Now,
but is this not the predecessor?
I mean, it could be. It really could be. But Johnny Cash was such a sponge. I mean, come on. During his Johnny Cash show, he had Dylan on there. He had everybody on there. I mean, fucking Ray Charles. If you were a good, honest songwriter, singer, and you connected, you were welcome. And Johnny took influence from everybody. But I mean, you have the connection with Waylon and Johnny later because they shared an apartment. So there's so many connections there with the early, what became Outlaws, that I think the outlaw movement was just a lot of things coming together. As far as Johnny being punk, he's punk, but he's, oh man, not to be too cliche, but he's a poet about it. He's a singer songwriter with an attitude, and that attitude is, fuck you, I'm going to say what I want. And I want to talk about downtrodden. I want to talk about politics. I want to talk about deep, meaningful things that I think you need to hear. And God damn it, I might get drunk, do some drugs, but I'm going to be me. And I just think that is the birth of what later became punk.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you look at like those lyrics for like dirty old egg sucking dog, and you think, what a poet.
Dude, I put in my notes, this is a horrible song, but I still like it.
I wonder, and this is just me, summarizing what I've read and what I've listened to this week. And I wonder if there was a little bit of conflict for him on this album, because one, super commercially successful, which I know he had to be proud of, because this was at a point where his career needed a little bit of a boost. He was kind of going the other direction, and this made him so commercially viable. But it also sort of boxed him into a corner as a kind of personality, you know what I mean? That he couldn't break free from. He couldn't really do any other kinds of music, even if he wanted to. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does, but he was so strong that he was gonna do what he wanted any damn how.
Yeah. Well, I think, wasn't it Chris Christopherson that said about him that he's a walking contradiction, partly truth and partly fiction?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and a great helicopter pilot as well, Christopherson.
I saw something in the research about that too, that Christopherson went to Johnny Cash's house to pick him up or something, and he wasn't there. I don't know, something about Christopherson landing a helicopter at Johnny Cash's house, and I'm like, what?
That's the oh god, the urban myth, and it could be true. It probably is, knowing everyone involved. Yeah, landed a helicopter on his front yard and was like, "Here's a song, you need to record it," and stole a helicopter because he was, had access in the military and all that stuff. Chris Christopherson, we should do a whole fucking podcast on him.
Well, he wasn't on the poster.
Yeah, Ron. Stick to the poster, damn it.
Bonus episode, prick.
Okay, fair. Well, you know, so we haven't talked about the music at all yet.
Well,
I just want to
Oh, go ahead, Drew.
Go ahead, Drew.
punctuate your points there, guys. Like that was my overall take in this was like, the great people, the great leaders always that can reach everyone, not just half of us or part of us, can find a way to relate to us so much that, and it might not even be direct relations. I don't do cocaine, but listen to this guy talk about it for some reason makes you realize, oh, he's like, and we all know that so many celebrities do drugs. Is a bad example here because everybody knows that's a big issue in the world of music and celebritydom, period. But just talking about his stupid dog that he hates, it's so relatable. It's a weak word for it, and it just puts you there, and you want to listen to what this guy has to say, and it's genius.
I do want to make a comparison though. So, Bert, what year was this made?
This was what,
Say
1960? I lost my place.
It was later
in my
than I
notes.
thought.
All
it
right.
was.
Well, still,
Yeah.
all right. So 60s.
No.
Tim McGraw was done 2000s, whatever. And you just talked about relatability.
68.
68. Yeah.
68.
Okay. So we're looking at 50 some years. You look at the relatability in country music, because we've talked about this specifically in the McGraw one. Cash made it relatable, but not generic. He was able to relate with people without keeping it so open-ended that everyone could
Yes.
relate. But McGraw and the pop country keeps it so generic so you can infer things. I think that's a powerful counterpoint in songwriting.
Oh, that is so true. I love, like, if you look at like 25 Minutes to Go, for example, which it's kind of a silly song, but it's also like a really dark song. And to bring that specifically to that audience too, and Ron, to your point, I think he had a gift of really trying to connect to specific audiences, which I think is what you're saying. Whereas Tim McGraw, well, I'm not just, I don't want to throw Tim under the bus. We've done that for a whole episode, but like,
And subsequent episodes, actually.
but
Poor bastard.
pop music's its job, its function is not to do that. You know what I mean? It's not really, it's not what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to be the mild spiced buffet at the Indian restaurant. You know what I mean? It's something that everyone can get, and there's not going to be any controversy.
It's
You know what I mean?
accessible.
Exactly.
I mean, if you want to reach everybody, it's supposed to
Right.
be.
Yeah.
If that's
Yeah.
your goal.
Yeah.
Which pop, that's his goal.
Yeah.
And to remind everyone, I was thrown out of a college class over the discussion of what could be considered pop music. So just want to throw that out there. But I agree with you. That's the short version.
Can we talk about
Was that the fun
amount
class we
of-
had in the morning in the lecture hall?
It sure is, Drew.
Mm-hmm.
Where jazz was classified.
It was
As pop music.
McBride, right?
Where you were referred to as Odom.
And forever shall be.
Yes.
But can we talk about the balls it takes to go to a prison and sing songs like 25 Minutes to Go?
Yeah.
That is a Woodstock 95 tinderbox if it was done today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Woodstock 95 tinderbox.
Yeah.
Let's just play Fire.
Yeah, right. Ring of Fire. Huh? Hey, why don't we take a quick break to hear from this week's sponsor, and then we can get into. I know, Ryan, you want to talk about the music and like do a little bit deeper dive into the songs, but let's hear from this week's.
Actually, we have a brand new sponsor. We've talked about return of investment a lot on the podcast, and not just in buying this poster. Lisa, you crushed it. Clearly, huge return of investment on buying this poster for Drew, but also sponsors are seeing people come to their businesses. So we have a brand new sponsor this week. I'm pretty excited. So here we go. This episode of the 100 Albums podcast has been made possible from the generous support of the Catholic Church. I'm not even sure if you guys have been following this, and admittedly, I had to do some digging when I received the ad, but the church kind of struggling in the U.S. right now. Numbers are dropping, significantly, and they're trying to do just about anything they can do to get parishioners back. And one of the creatives in the church started talking about the Eucharist, which, for those of you who know, it's a small wafer of unflavored, gluten tart. I don't know, what would you call that thing? Anyway, through a bit of spiritual magic, it becomes the literal body of Jesus Christ. And then you eat it. Anyway, here, this is from the sponsor, so I hope you guys are excited for this. Because Sunday isn't just for church anymore. For a large part of the year, it's also game day. And they got to thinking, can't we perform the same transubstantiation on just about anything? Let's bring the body of Christ to the 21st century. And that is where this week's sponsor comes from. Eucharistos. Eucharistos is a proud sponsor of the 100 Albums podcast. Eucharisto, the crispy, craveable, flavored Jesus. Get your congregation numbers up by giving them what they really want. Eucharistos.
Get through.
This is the first one he's broken on.
Just give me a second.
He must not have proofread it when the sponsor sent it before.
Well, I wrote. It's been a couple weeks.
I almost snarfed bourbon there.
Oh, I'm ready.
This is awesome that you punked yourself like this. When you praise Past Ryan for buying yourself records.
Okay, all right, here we go. Eucharistos, now available in Zesty Ranch. Let me try. Bert, I'm so sorry for the editing you're gonna have to do.
No, keep this shit in.
I forgot I wrote this. This has been like 4 weeks ago. Okay. All right, I'm ready. Here we go.
Okay, focus.
Get your congregation numbers up by giving them what they really want. Eucharistos. Now available in Zesty Ranch, Buffalo Blue Cheese, Flaming Hot Nacho, and Salted Caramel. For a perfect pairing, replace your boring church wine with Eucharistos Red Bull and Vodka Bahama Blast shots. Pre-packaged in individual shot glasses, making the perfect serving to accompany any Eucharistos crispy, craveable, flavored Jesus. Take your body and blood to a new religious experience with Eucharistos, the crispy, craveable, flavored Jesus.
Unmatched.
I tell you what, I usually, I don't have a lot of urge to go to service, but this could get me. This could get me there.
Well, it's really, it's a constant struggle, isn't it? To keep your audience growing and coming back.
Oh my, Ryan.
I assume they have it available in family size.
Oh my face hurts.
We're kind of speechless.
Well, here's the good news from a podcast perspective. We've got some real creative thinkers out there that are wanting to pitch products that are unique. And folks, if you are listening and you've got a unique product like Eucharistos or any of the weirdly stabby things that Rod Stillman comes up with, send them in. Or we will whatever you want us to do, we're in.
We actually, I would even say if you've got something like a Eucharistos and you really want to send the product to market, we would be happy to on air try it, right? You know,
Oh, I would taste this. Yeah.
I mean, just with these microphones, getting all up in there and hearing the crunch, you know, you'll get the full experience.
How the hell are we gonna get back to this shit now?
I don't know.
Oh, that was beautiful.
I want to apologize to audiences for my lack of professionalism there. I had
They won't
forgot.
know. I'll edit it out. They'll never
Okay,
know.
good.
They'll never know. Isn't that they'll never know.
I don't know, man. I don't know if that situation should be
You
erased
think
from.
you should leave it
No,
raw?
I think you should, because I broke hard.
But
Yeah,
you know
we're
that.
just
Jimmy Fallon.
But it's like this mysterious RV sales sign in this town that's been upside down for 50 years. It gets people's attention. Your commercial will get people's attention for time eternal.
Eucharistos.
Well, and eventually we're gonna have to do just an entire episode that is all of the commercials back to back.
there you go.
Oh, I'm looking forward to my belly scratch.
Okay, well, thank you to Eucharistos for sponsoring this week's show.
I'm sorry, Bert. I have
If-
to correct you. It's contractually obligated. You have to say Eucharistos, the crispy, craveable flavored Jesus. So continue.
Well,
say
yes,
say it properly.
the Eucharistos, the crispy, crunchity flavored cheese.
And we lost a sponsor. Thanks, Bert.
What is it? The crispy,
Craveable,
craveable. Okay,
flavored Jesus. It's not that hard, man.
okay.
Come on.
Crispy, craveable flavored Jesus.
It's the way you always imagine Jesus.
That's all right. So on re-listen. What's the what strikes you about the album, guys? What's the good? What's the bad? What's the ugly?
It's really hard. I actually went to ugly first because it was the most difficult one. I think this album is so much fun. I actually listened to it probably 6 times
Wow.
because I don't know, like I was just feeling it. It was maybe it's because when we were listening to this audience, this was months ago. We were re-listening this during the Thanksgiving time, and it's so sweet that he brings this to people that have nothing. And I felt very thankful. So I kind of like dug in a little bit, maybe dug my heels into the album. So I kind of went to ugly first. Is that okay, Bert?
Hey, that's fine.
And for me, the joke I made earlier, dirty old egg sucking dog, that's one that
Didn't resonate for you?
especially because what happens after when he brings on the other musicians and stuff, and like it becomes so much better. But I don't know. Ron, you mentioned too in Dark as the Dungeon, where it's such a serious song and the audience kind of screws it over. It's a golden moment though.
I'm so happy they left that in. And so for those of you who are going to go YouTube this or Spotify it, make sure you listen to it on some kind of long play format, whether it's vinyl, whether it's CD, whether it's something, and listen to it all the way through. Because if you just go track by track, you miss the comments in between, and that's the personality.
And you miss the continuity.
Yeah, absolutely. But I can't help but think that Egg Sucking Dog, Flushed from the Bathroom of My Heart, those are his attempts at levity, at comedy. He's
100%.
Yeah, he's in a prison. You can't do songs like Long Black Veil, 25 minutes to go, and then not throw some goddamn levity in there. You just can't do it.
And then also he rewards them immediately after. There are 2, I think, right? Isn't it right after that? It was the 2 tracks of June Carter?
Yeah, Jackson
and Give Love to My Rose.
Oh my God. And those
Give
are
My Love to Rose.
That's like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you, Ron. This is an album you need to listen to again, like a comedy record. You want to hear it straight through so you understand, what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually surprised, Bert, in your research. I didn't know that this was from 2 recordings. I mean,
Yeah.
that seems pretty commonplace. After you said it, I was like, oh, that makes sense. But like when you listen to it, it feels like it was all one
Well,
moment in time.
yeah, and I didn't know that prior to actually sitting down to do, because it feels like it's kind of like that continuity you're talking about, right? That it does feel like one thing, but logically, right? It's the first time he's ever performed in a prison, and so like you don't know what's going to happen, right? Like who knows? And I've got some more research about that here in a minute, but and so it makes sense that they're like, okay, let's do 2 takes on this or two concerts on this in case something goes sideways or whatever.
Well,
For
and Bert,
me,
did you look at? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
go ahead.
I know I stepped on your toes
No, no,
there.
go ahead. I was going to transition to something else, so go ahead. Keep
I
on
don't
the
know if you
thought.
guys all saw this when you were looking for, how to listen, but much like months ago, like I would say like 4 months ago, Bert and I looked at this at the Charlie Brown Christmas album, and there was like a deluxe version that was like 4 CDs. Did you guys find the deluxe version of this?
I did.
The 1999 release,
There are a
re-release.
lot of things.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it makes it better. I think it's better exactly how they presented it the first time.
yeah.
I can go either way on that one. It's as an album, it's great the way it is. But for those who are like, I want more, I think the re-release is fine. My burning question in listening to this album is, Bert, I need you to tell me, what was your opinion of Orange Blossom Special?
I
'Cause
feel
you
I feel very like put on the spot right
Spotlight.
now.
Oh yeah, because here's what I envision in my head. We listen to a lot of music in the car on the way to
Uh-huh.
work and
Yeah.
all that. And as soon as I heard the harmonica kick in, because I'd forgotten about that, I just wanted to be like sitting shotgun with you in the car just to see you go, oh fuck.
Yep. No, yeah, that's funny, Ron. It didn't stand out to me as like this but yeah, you know me, I'm anti-harmonica. But
It made
that's
me
funny.
laugh.
That's funny.
But
Oh, that's like oddly sweet that Ron's listening to music and when he hears a harmonica, he's like, I wonder what Bert would think of this.
I actually had a similar moment. I was thinking about you too during Cocaine Blues.
And why is that, Ryan? Or were you thinking about me or were you thinking about Ron?
About you, Bert. I was just thinking about you, like all hopped up on cocaine, eating Eucharistos, wiping your Eucharisto stained hands on your shirt. That's how I listened to the album. I'm sure everyone had different interpretations.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
god. Although I will say, and give my love to Rose, if you added Christmas in there, then it would be that damn shoe song.
No,
it's
no,
because
no,
it is
it's not.
sappier and shit. I know,
No,
straight up. That is a tearjerker.
yeah, but the song that you referenced no, it's a terrible song. You are banished. Hold on, I'm rolling the die here. I got a 19. I have officially banished you from such blasphemy.
Normally he's playing D&D at this hour, so he's in that kind of frame of mind, I guess.
Oh.
Drew, you've been weirdly quiet over there, and I'm worried.
He's muted for
Oh, it's because
starters.
he's muted. Yeah.
That's my
He's
own
been-
damn fault. I can't
He's
believe
been talking for 20 minutes.
I've
Wondering
actually
why he
got-
can't get a word in edgewise, right?
No, I've been getting a little pissed. I'm like, Jesus, guys, you're really not letting me in tonight. That was my own fault. Dude, muted. I'm standing over here just moving my mouth to the. Yeah, no, yeah, you didn't need me to be any part of that. That was good without me. I was listening to the whole thing. You can hear his smoker's cough throughout this whole thing. It's crazy. How old was he at this time?
Pretty young still.
So relatively young, yeah. So this was what we said, 68, right? and he was born in 32, so I guess not that young.
36.
36.
I mean,
It just
considering
I
his
mean,
not bad.
lifespan,
I mean, yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
love to be 36 again.
Yeah. But that's not what my focus was. That was just in my notes of that song. But what that song got me, the first thing I wrote down was, his band is, and it's not like complicated music. We all know that. That's why it's so great. We've been talking about that. But he just jumps in when he's ready to start singing the song, and the band's been vamping the whole time, and they're just ready to drop. And like it's again, it's not, they're already on the tonic. They don't even have to move. The song just starts. But it's just a really cool, loose, organic presentation, because that allows him to do all of that interaction with the audience. And it's just underproduced, it's under rehearsed, and it's awesome.
Drew, within Give My Love to Rose, there's some chords and like a key change. Did I hear that correctly? Because there was actually some surprises on here with going to other chords than like a 1-4-5 or stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know if Ryan did a deep dive on that, but I'll admit that I did a late listen to this one this time, and I was going to sit down, and I actually told my wife, I go, like, I'm just got to run through this with my guitar to check keys and be able to have that conversation. I did not get a chance. So I can't even answer that question because I don't know the album that well to just pull it from memory, that song.
I wanted to do that, Drew. I really did. But you know what I found out myself doing, and this is such a compliment to the album, is I just couldn't stop listening.
Yeah, that was the thing. I mean, I was like, well, I'd have to get up, I'd have to go get my guitar, start it over. I figured I'll just do it again on my next listen, but I just didn't give myself that chance. I've been a little busy. But as far as musicality goes, my biggest compliment or comment is the depth of his voice. I mean, he does it the minute that Dark as the Dungeon song starts, like the second note, he drops to an E flat. I open up my app on my phone, my GarageBand app, and hit the piano on it. He goes down to, I think, 2 E flats below middle C. And then on the last song, the I Got Stripes one, is that the last one? That's not the last one, but he goes down.
Yeah, close to, yeah.
I might have misheard it, but he goes down an octave below that, I thought I heard. And like, again, I wasn't able to sit down and really, really count down the key. Obviously, he likes the key of E flat, which means nothing about the depth of his voice. It's wildly impressive, that range.
Drew, you're walking into my hot take.
Oh,
so I have to drop it.
So I'm doing like one of those fire walks.
Let's have it, Ryan. Go ahead.
That's the Tom and Jerry music. Anyway, Drew, I feel like in terms of vocal range in a pop singer, he's the predecessor of Tom Waits.
Ooh.
Because Tom, he sings with multiple colors, very low, and all through up the mid, up to the high, and it's all very personal. And I feel like Johnny Cash, in a more simplified way, admittedly, because Tom's more on that like sort of, pushing the envelope into the avant-garde kind of stuff, right? But I really feel like there's a relationship there.
Did they ever do a song together?
No, I don't think so. I would know.
Well, I didn't know if he ever had him on the TV show, because that would be
right around 77. Tom was getting like the gray whistle test, that kind of show. But I don't know when Johnny Cash's show was airing though. So,
and also like that era of Tom was a little bit more weirdly croony. I don't know, but that's a tangent here.
Yeah.
Right. Well, since we're speaking,
this is why we should always record in the morning.
This is why we shouldn't drink. I mean, we should drink when we record. Ron, finish your thought, and then I'll go into mine.
All right, I am gonna leave like there's only a few people who are gonna get this, but he pays homage to Ernest Tubbs. Anyone here listen to Ernest Tubbs at all?
Can't say I do.
Just
All
you,
right.
Ron.
Hey, I'm cool with that. I likes me some Ernest Tubbs. But damn, I can't read my handwriting because, well, I've been drinking. Oh, Egg Sucking Dog. That is straight up an Ernest Tubbs vocal. And I just like the fact that he paid homage to it. So, for the three cats out there who listen to Ernest Tubbs, there you go.
Nice.
I looked up Long Black Veil to see who did it and who has done it. And that's not his song, of course, but of note, and Ryan, you'll like this, especially Dave Matthews Band also did that song.
Oh, God.
But man, I love that
Drew,
song.
you're just trying to provoke a response at this point.
I love this. I'm just checking to make sure my mic's not muted. It's the best way to do it.
Oh my gosh. Well, so hey, I'll give you a couple of quick hitters here from my perspective. We've talked about this before. Not a country person. Just really have never really been. It's not been a genre of music that appeals to me. But there's something about Johnny Cash. For me, there's something about Johnny Cash. There's something about Willie Nelson, and that might be it. I've always been drawn to his style of songwriting, his style of performing. I think you guys touched a lot on his vocal range. But I also think that, what was that song that he did? Hurt? You guys remember that song? I hurt
yeah.
myself today,
That's
right?
the Nine Inch Nails song, yes.
The Nine Inch,
Yeah.
right? Exactly, right. But that was in 2002. He died in 2003.
Yeah, he put
So,
that
I
whole
mean,
album with covers out and then died.
Exactly. So it's like this whole, his whole career. It's like he never stopped. And we'll get into some context here in just a minute. But I think that for my liking, it's what song would I remove from the album to make it a better album? I'm not sure I'd remove anything. This is one of those albums that I feel like, getting back to what we were talking about earlier about continuity and kind of the intimacy that is felt between the performer and the in this case prisoners at the concert. I feel like there's not a song to remove. So speaking of that, I had found an article from Rolling Stone in 2013, not about at Folsom Prison, but at the San Quentin concert that he did in 1969, so a year later. He debuted two versions of a new song named after the jail. The bitter lyrics, written from the point of view of the inmates, quote, "San Quentin, I hate every inch of you," end quote, nearly sparked an insurrection. And Cash was tempted. According to Bob Johnson, quote, "He realized that all he had to say was, 'Let's go,' and there would have been a full-scale riot." Like, that's power, man. You know? So I think what's good is, like I talked about, there's something about Johnny Cash, even though I'm not a country guy, I've always been drawn to it. The other thing that I think is really, really good, and we've touched on this a bit already, is just this notion of, at the time, it wouldn't have been called social justice, right? That's more of a more recent construct. But he was someone he was a fierce proponent for Native American issues, incarcerated peoples, those kinds of things, and there weren't a lot of folks talking about that kind of stuff in
Oh,
the
no. Yeah.
1950s, 1960s, even even up until now.
And the
That's
incarceration component goes directly into his Vietnam stuff
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I guess that goes without saying. But I
Yeah.
said it, so now it doesn't go without saying.
so it's
because
been said.
it's been said.
What else do we want to talk about here? Context. Where does this album fit into the discography of the artist? So I was kind of surprised to see this. Johnny Cash had 67 studio albums.
Fucking slacker.
Between 1957 and 1991, he averaged at least one studio album every year.
That's a man resting on his laurels.
He also had 16 live albums. So that's a total of 83 albums, guys. Like,
God damn.
what? Are you kidding?
And we talked about Aretha being prolific.
Right?
It just, maybe times used to be better.
I'm like, save some for everybody else, Johnny. Come on. So this was his fourth best-selling record at 3.2 million total copies sold.
Wait, hold on. Can I guess what his best is?
I know what you're gonna say, and you're gonna be wrong, but go ahead and say it.
Best of Johnny Cash.
Actually, that was number 3.
How many of those are there?
1999's 16 biggest hits. So,
No, how many best of Johnny Cashes are there?
oh, there's a bunch of them, but
The
so
essential
this-
Johnny Cash. The
that's-
best of Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash Gold.
Well, when you've got 67 studio albums. So this album sold 3,200,000 copies. 16 biggest hits. The number 3 seller was 3,268,000. 1969's At San Quentin sold 3.27 million. And then 2005's The Legend of Johnny Cash sold almost 3.4 million. So they all sold like in the low to mid 3 millions. Like that's a low number.
Man, that's so relatable to me, having been a person who has also sold 3 million albums on most of my albums.
Yeah.
So I feel like, he could have done
right
more.
than 67 albums. So hey, let's talk about results and ratings. Individual scores. I gave it a 6. Drew gave it a 7. Ryan also gave it a 7. Average score was 6.67. Ranked 40th out of 100 albums. Ron, how would you rate this one?
Oh, this is 8.59 for me.
8.59. That's very specific.
Yeah.
Second chances. Drew, Ryan, are you guys good with your 7s?
I'm a 7, you said?
Yeah.
I think I'm going to stay at a 7 because as much as I like it and I enjoy it, it's not going to go into heavy rotation for me. So I can't offer it too much number, but yeah, great album and masterful with execution and point. Absolutely.
I would raise mine actually.
Yeah.
Just because I like I liked the live element of it more this listen around. I'd probably give it a 7.25.
Not as specific as Ron, but okay, we'll take it.
It's,
So, hot take time.
Ryan's heart just grew a size bigger.
So who's got a hot? Ryan, you've already exposed your hot take. Any other hot takes?
For me- oh no, go Drew. Go Drew.
Okay. I don't, it's not a hot take, I don't believe, because I don't think it's revelation in any way, but I think with the way that country music has evolved, and we all slam country repeatedly in this podcast, but we all love this album. That speaks to my point. I think that this is like country music has left the building. I don't consider Johnny Cash like country music. I'm not a country music fan, so I don't really have the right to say that. But in my mind, it's folk. It's Americana music, and I don't know, maybe at one time he would have been called country because maybe they didn't have another word for it, although Americana folk had been around. But, especially all the things considered and after talking through with you guys, I mean, it's just simply is not a country album to me in any way. So that's my take, whether it's hot or not.
I got burned. Ron, how about you?
I am diametrically opposed to Drew on this one. My hot take is, God damn it, this is country music.
Okay.
The stuff now is not. If I'm talking music with someone and I'm like, what do you listen to? And they're like, country, I have to delineate. Okay, are we talking Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, or are we talking newer stuff? Because to me, this is quintessential country music. So yeah, that's my hot take.
Bert, why'd you get
Ryan.
burned? Did I take your hot take?
No, I was joking.
No.
It was so hot that I got burned, is what I was saying.
Oh, I was going to apologize.
So, Ron, I have to I want to egg you on here a little bit here, because I feel like what you're really saying is not that you like country music, it's that you like people who are strong voices in advocacy for marginalized people, because you like punk music, you like this style of country, whereas the way you specified there is saying you don't like music that is not representative of the people who need their voices lifted. Is that correct?
To an extent, but at the same time, and I'll give you a good example. Waylon Jennings, big repertoire, had songs that were relatable, maybe not as politically socio as concentrated as Johnny Cash, but when it comes to country music, his song, "Oh, Bob Wills is Still the King," that's a great country song, but it's not, speaking for someone or doesn't have a cause to it. I do think Johnny Cash lent his style to country music, and you can't take that away. He plays guitar, and you know it just by the rhythm. Folsom, that is the most well known. Anyone can play that anywhere in my world where I live, and everyone knows what song it is. And half the people in the bar will go, "Hell yeah!" And the other half will go, "Ah, shit again." That's my ugly of this album. Is I've heard Folsom so much and so many covers, I can't hear it anymore. Even listening to it on this album, it's like, God damn, I love this song, but I've heard it too friggin' much. Same
By
thing with
everyone.
Jackson. Yeah.
We have a lot of those coming in on this poster for me, and I understand exactly what you're saying. So, Bert, you looked like you wanted to say something.
Oh no, I was just gonna give you my hot take, and I'm not sure it's more of a question, and I don't want to offend. This is not meant to offend. This is not meant to besmirch the good artistry that is Johnny Cash. But are we sure that he's a good musician? Because, hear me out. Hear me out. It's a question.
I'm already ready to respond, and I'm scared what you're gonna say.
It's a question. So it's not on this album, but if you listen to "I Walk the Line," the beginning of the song, the music's playing and like guitars are strumming and whatever, and then in the background, faintly, you can hear him hum his first note that he's gonna sing in the verse, as if to kind of like mark this is where I'm supposed to come in, or where I'm supposed to come in, like tonally. So ever since I heard, I mean, and I don't even know when I noticed that as a young adult, that I was like, what's he doing? Now, he could have been high, he could have been drunk, right? And so those are factors too. But I guess my question is, good songwriter, absolutely, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But is he a good singer? Is he a good musician from that perspective?
Yes.
Ryan,
it's a question. It's a question.
I'm answering right away. Yes, because musicians, just like comedians, require a sense of timing, and it's something that is really hard to teach. As someone who has taught a lot of music, the idea of timing, and he understood how to work the timeline, because with music, it's not like looking at a painting. You literally are responsible for carrying a person through time. That is the canvas, for a better word, of music. And Johnny was so good at that. So whether he had to check his pitch, man, this was the 60s. Like they also couldn't like retake the recording. Like today, if he
Fair.
I mean,
Yeah.
he would have had no problem. I'm sure there's none of that on the one where he did the Hurt song.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say yes. I think he's a fantastic musician.
I'll
Ron?
add to that
Sure.
that he may or may not be, but okay, I believe he's a great musician. I mean, we've been accolading him all night, so I'm behind the positive statement that he's a musician. But if you have sung in front of an audience and you're the sole point of interest, and you've ever done so, I don't know, without paying close attention, and you either come in and you crack or you burp, or I mean, it sucks.
Yeah.
And so, especially if he's trying to make records, I can imagine that's probably what he was doing there. But I don't know. But I do get your point though, because I mean, goodness is to me very subjective, and so could he stand against? I don't know. Let's say
Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, I mean,
You know what I mean? Yeah.
apples and oranges.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna say he wasn't, but listening to you guys,
Oh shit! And Ryan left, so
I know.
Like I
just
said,
leave it hang there, Ron.
good is not a linear statement. It's
Yeah, right.
It's a
And for
dimension.
for the record too, it's like I said, it's more, it's just a question, right?
Yeah. No, it's
And I
great,
think,
great conversation
and
point.
I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that being a good musician is not necessarily the same as being a good singer, and vice versa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can be a great singer and be a terrible musician, whatever.
Mhm.
Well,
But so Ryan, for the record, Ron was gonna say that he is a bad musician.
Sure.
But I did have to alter it in that he's a simple musician.
Hmm.
He's not Zappa, Steve Vai, classic composer,
Well, now you're talking about
level.
virtuosity.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But I don't think
but-
that's not. I don't think that has to be a synonym with being a great musician.
and I agree. So I'm glad you spoke. I do have a return question though. Was Johnny Cash the precursor to activism a la Stevie Wonder?
No.
Well, fine. Fuck you then. Make it simple.
I don't understand the question.
There's,
Well, there was so much
there's
happening.
there
in
was
the
a lot
civil-
going on.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah. In the yeah.
civil rights movement alone with all the African American artists. I'm not going to put that on Johnny Cash. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I would have to do like a decade of research to prove what you just said. So
Right. Well, because I was trying to think back, like, folk music was about the people and everything, but who else really came out that strong for an underserved population before Johnny Cash?
I mean, that's why I made sure I included that in my research earlier.
Right.
I agree with you that it is phenomenal.
Well,
Ron, I would qualify again. You'd have to do the research to bear it out, but I would say if you amended your statement to say that Johnny Cash was a one of the only or the first white country artists to have that type of message in the music and that type of activism and that kind of stuff, I think you'd be closer there.
Mm.
But yeah, you'd have to, like Ryan said, do
Yeah.
a bunch of research to find out kind of what that full arc looks like in the civil rights movement and that kind of thing. So
Well,
think so.
speaking of arcs, where are we at with his career?
well, hang on. We're right in
Oh,
the middle of the civil rights movement with this '68 album. I mean, 1969 is Woodstock, so it's not like
Yeah.
this isn't being going on right now.
right,
It's maybe not so much in this genre, but
Right.
yeah, he was. That's you forget. I do all the time that Johnny Cash, the Man in Black, is doing this at the same time as Janis Joplin's playing.
Yep.
And it's all
Okay.
it's
yeah, yeah. There's a lot going on. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I would like to say also, did you guys look at some of the famous inmates from Folsom?
No.
Merle Haggard.
So, well, we also have Rick James, Suge Knight, Timothy Leary.
Oh, you mean over history, not at the
Yes.
concert?
No,
Okay.
no, no. Over
yeah.
history.
Suge Knight's not that old.
Dude, yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
You got Charles Manson,
Wow.
Danny Trejo.
Hey,
Not surprised.
Oh, I love that guy.
So
Hey,
I mean,
hey,
Danny Trejo is like so great.
he's cool.
Well, speaking of prisoners, Glenn Shirley wrote one of the songs on this album,
yeah.
who was in Folsom. So can you imagine writing a song, sending it to someone, and then having them sing it in your presence?
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I can't, but that's awesome.
I know, right?
I mean, I can't even imagine at this point in my career as a composer writing something and anyone performing it. So
All
Hey,
right, hey guys.
You have done that a few times, man, and I have eyes to prove it.
all right.
All right, guys. That's it for this one. Join us next week.
I'm sorry, it's not. That's not it.
Oh no, it's not. What did I miss?
Yes.
You forgot one of my favorite topics, Bert.
What's that, Ryan?
If Johnny
Oh,
Cash,
the
at
restaurant.
at Folsom, had a restaurant, come on, guys, what are we having?
I did miss that, and I have notes on it. Okay. Listeners, write in, let us know.
Yeah, but we've been getting a lot of cool answers, by the way. So this is not a joke. If you've been hearing these episodes, we're compiling some of your. They're hilarious.
The
So keep 'em
greatest
coming.
responses. We're going to make a greatest hits album. 100 albums at bertislo.com. That's 100 albums at bertislo.com. Send us your thoughts about, hey, if Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison was a restaurant themed a la Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville,
Which also
what's
great
the
concept.
vibe? What's the vibe? What are you eating? What's on the menu? What's it called?
See, for me, I'm like it's prison themed, so you get to sit in your own cell, and it's called I got strips, and it's chicken strips.
That's good.
Oh my God.
If I went simpler, Ryan. Mine was, where's my note here?
Was it send a picture of your logger?
No, where is it?
Send a picture
A picture? A picture.
of your logger.
Okay, here we go. It's a very industrial, like lots of metal and rafters, lots of, the industrial vibe. It's a gastropub, and it's called Folsom Prison Brews. I'll be here all week.
I like that. I like that.
But I'm sorry, I forgot that, Ryan. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
reminding
That's what I'm
me.
here for. Yeah.
It's an
If
important
anyone,
topic to hit.
Yeah.
if anyone wants to go visit the Greystone Eucharistos Chapel, could be available as well. So,
All right, so hey, next week we're going to be talking about Sinead O'Connor and her album "I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got."
listen to it before you hear us talk about it.
Yes, definitely take a listen before you listen to us blather on about it. And until then, gents, it's always a
Cheers.
pleasure. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Bye.
Out.